33 people have lost their lives, dozens more injured after a man set fire to an animation studio in Kyoto, Japan. The police have detained a man who was said to have sprayed petrol on the building before igniting it. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. Police said the 41-year-old suspect broke into the animation studio in the Japanese city of Kyoto and sprayed petrol before igniting it. The suspect has been detained and was taken to hospital with injuries. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said the incident was too appalling for words and offered his condolences. Eyewitnesses described a loud explosion followed by an inferno that rapidly engulfed the building. A delegation from the UN, along with health officials, have met in South Sudan. It's after the World Health Organization declared Congo's Ebola outbreak as an international health emergency yesterday. Despite a highly effective vaccine and a swift international response after it was declared 11 months ago, the outbreak spread fast, becoming Congo's worst ever, with almost 1,700 people declared dead. Health Organization has warned that the nearby countries of Rwanda, South Sudan, Burundi and Uganda are the most at risk. South Sudanese health officials are working with humanitarian partners to implement a prevention and response plan, including border surveillance and screening, as well as establishing treatment and isolation facilities.
I really want to tell the community members here that actually if Ebola does come and if it's not controlled, it will actually become your biggest problem, bigger than malaria, bigger than everything else. So it's really important to have that awareness, because communities in South Sudan can defeat Ebola.
An effort to impeach Donald Trump has failed in the US House of Representatives. Texas Democrat Al Green filed the resolution after the House voted to denounce Mr. Trump's attacks aimed at 4 US congresswomen as racist. But the measure failed to win enough support, with his fellow Democrats voting overwhelmingly against. Mr. Trump said the ridiculous attempts to impeach him were now over. He told a rally in North Carolina that a similar situation shouldn't happen to any other future president.
They want to try and impeach. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. So now we have that behind us. And I have to say this, and I'll say it just once. What happened to me with this witch hunt should never be allowed to happen to another president of the United States. Never, ever again.
Turkish officials say 15 migrants have been killed in a road accident in eastern Turkey. Around 52 other people were also injured in the accident near the town of Ozalp, close to Turkey's border with Iran. The minibus carrying the migrants went off the road and rolled into a ditch in the southern province of Van. The area's governor said the migrants are believed to be from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh. The wife of Bill Gates, Melinda, has urged G7 finance ministers and central bank governors to empower millions of women in Africa by investing in digital financial systems. Melinda joined the G7 meeting in Chantilly, north of Paris. It's after the group partnered with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to promote inclusion of women in the digital financial sphere. France's Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire has called on his G7 counterparts to contribute to the estimated $225 million to help improve digital financial access across Africa, especially among women. British lawmakers have approved an amendment to make it more difficult for the new Prime Minister to force through a no-deal Brexit by suspending Parliament.
The ayes to the right, 315. The noes to the left, 274.
A majority of 41 approved an amendment that blocks suspension between 9th of October and 18th of December. Boris Johnson, the front-runner to succeed Prime Minister Theresa May next week, has said Britain must leave the EU on October the 31st with or without a deal. It effectively means the Commons have made it harder for a new Prime Minister to suspend Parliament. Prosecutors in the US state of Massachusetts have dropped a criminal investigation against Kevin Spacey. The 59-year-old actor was accused of groping an 18-year-old man at a bar in 2016, but indecent assault and battery charges were dropped after the accuser refused to testify about a missing phone, which the defense said could prove the actor's innocence. Mr. Spacey has faced several sexual misconduct accusations, but this was the only one to result in a criminal case. And finally, it may seem more like a game for kids, but arm wrestling is gaining traction in Africa. 300 athletes from at least 9 countries, including Nigeria, Egypt, Ghana, Ivory Coast and Senegal, all took part in the 10th Africa Arm Wrestling Championships recently. Malian representatives on Sunday won the 10th edition of the African Arm Wrestling Championships with 115 medals, with Egypt coming second and Nigeria coming in 3rd place. And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Thanks, Simon. Test of strength, arm wrestling. We move on to sports, and here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Yes, indeed, the Super Eagles may have won the bronze at this year's AFCON, but they have been handed a relatively easy opponent in the qualifiers for the 2021 edition in the African Nations Cup. According to the draw released by the organizers, the 3-time African champions will play in Group L with Benin Republic, Sierra Leone and Lesotho, but they will begin their campaign for a place in the continental tournament on November the 11th. Cameroon is expected to host the 2021 Nations Cup. Super Eagles captain Mikel Obi has announced his retirement from international football. Mikel, who was a squad member of the bronze-winning side at the 2019 AFCON, played his first senior tournament at the 2006 African Nations Cup, also in Egypt. The 32-year-old was also part of the squad that won Nigeria's 3rd Nations Cup title in South Africa in 2013 after a long 19 years wait. In total, the former Chelsea and Middlesbrough star made 89 appearances for the national team. Now, the president of the NFF, Amaju Pinnick, has been removed as the first vice president of the Confederation of African Football. Mr. Pinnick was elevated to the position in 2018 after the corruption case brought against the sacked Ghana FA president Kwesi Nyatake. Now, the action was taken today at the Congress of the continent's football body in Cairo, Egypt. Constant Omar, who is the president of the Congolese Football Federation, has been picked as the body's first vice president. Meanwhile, FIFA President Gianni Infantino has rejected comments that the world body has taken a colonialist attitude towards African football and its governing organization, CAF. FIFA last month took the unprecedented move of announcing it will jointly administer African football with CAF and will send its Secretary General Fatma Samura on a 9-month secondment to overhaul the African body. And that's a wrap on sports news. Ijoma is back to you.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde. And the main news again. 1 officer and 5 soldiers were feared killed today in a gun battle with suspected Boko Haram terrorists at Jakana village on Maiduguri-Damaturu Expressway. Also today, the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, met with President Buhari. He also raised the alarm over the invasion of Southwest Forest by strangers, but warned against playing politics with the killings in the country. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Hunyato. Good night.